There are currently 33 survivors in Dead by Daylight, and there's no denying that some of them are more popular than others. But what about those that are less popular? In fact, who is the most hated Dead by Daylight survivor? Well, that's what this video is going to investigate. But before we get started, why not head down into the comments and leave a prediction on who you think the winner will be? And hey, while you're down there, why not subscribe? It's free, and I'm trying to hit 25k by the end of this year. You can even unsubscribe next year if you really want to, but for now, it would really help me out if you guys subscribe, so please do. I would love to see more people around the channel, and I'd just really appreciate it if you're enjoying the content. But without much further ado, let's get into it. So how do we find out who is the most hated survivor? Well, I thought the best way to go about it was to treat it as a competition and organize the survivors into heats in which they would compete to progress further and further into the competition until a winner is crowned. So to start with, I divided each of the survivors into 8 groups, 7 of which had 4 competitors and 1 of which had 5, which, you know, thanks so much, Behavior. Really appreciated the odd number there. Didn't bother me at all. Now, to keep it fair, I used a spin wheel to allocate the survivors into each of the groups to try and remove any bias that I may have for wanting to see certain survivors pitted against each other in these rounds. From each group, the 2 survivors who were deemed as the most hated out of the 4 would progress on to the semi-finals, from which only 1 survivor would progress to the final. From there, it's pretty obvious whoever then gets the most amount of votes in the final would be crowned the champion. So with that out of the way, it was on to the voting. And what I decided to do was to put up polls on my YouTube and Twitter and ask people to vote for who they disliked the most out of each group. Each group's vote would be up for 2 days before it would be permanently deleted and a new one would take its place. Overall, there were 146,704 votes, but only 1 winner. So let's find out who it was. So let's start with the results of the group stages. In Group 1, we had Michaela, Claudette, Cheryl, and Bill, and over 8,000 votes cast for this stage. These were distributed with Cheryl receiving 7% of the vote, Bill receiving 12% of the vote, Michaela receiving 25% of the vote, and Claudette receiving 56% of the vote, which results in Michaela and Claudette taking the first 2 spots in our semifinals. On to Group 2, and we had the white bread man himself, Felix, followed by Kate, Zarina, and Quentin, with over 10,000 votes cast in this section. Zarina received 11% of the vote, Felix received 14% of the vote, Kate received 26% of the vote, and Quentin swept the competition with 49% of the vote, meaning Quentin and Kate progress on to the next stage. Group 3 saw Nancy, Jill, Rebecca, and Detective Tapp go head-to-head, with just over 11,500 votes cast for these guys. Jill received 8%, Rebecca received 12%, Detective Tapp received 17%, and Nancy was a little bit higher with 63% of the vote. No doubt she went on, but Tapp, just beating out Rebecca, also joins her in the semifinals. In Group 4, we had Jake, David, Ace, and Adam. With just under 12,000 votes, Adam received 9%, Jake received 14%, David received 22%, and Ace received 55%. Ace and David take the next spots in the semi-final. In Group 5, we had the Queen herself, Elodie, along with Yunjin, Leon, and Feng. Just under 12,000 votes were received for this. Elodie received 12%, Leon received 13%, Yunjin received 19%, and probably not surprisingly to a lot of you, Feng Min received 56%. Oh, and by the way, to the 12% of people who voted for Elodie, I'll find you. Don't you worry. Feng and Yunjin took the next spots in the semi-final after that vote. And in Group 6, we saw Hattie, Ash, Dwight, and Jonah go head-to-head with just over 12,000 votes received. Surprisingly, Ash only received 15% of that vote. I actually thought it'd be higher. Hattie received 18% of the vote, Jonah received 20% of the vote, and Dwight received 47% of the vote. Now, this group was interesting because it was the first time that we saw a discrepancy between the Twitter and the YouTube crowds. On Twitter, we had Jonah receiving the most votes, whereas on YouTube, it was actually Dwight who received the most votes. Either way, both Jonah and Dwight go through to the semi-final. The penultimate group for the first stages saw Jeff, Steve, Meg, and Yoichi go head-to-head with just over 11,500 votes between them. Yoichi, probably not surprisingly, received 7%, Jeff received 10%, clearly people don't think he needs to wash like I do, Steve received 17%, and Meg received a whopping 66% of the vote, meaning that Steve and Meg take the next 2 spots in the semi-final. And in the final group stage, we had Yui, Lauri, Nia, Ada, and Jane going head to head. Now, this poll may have suffered from the fact that there were 5 participants, because it meant that I couldn't use an image poll on YouTube and I couldn't use a regular poll on Twitter either. So I had to kind of improvise around those, which resulted in just over 8,000 votes cast for this group stage. Either way though, Yui and Ada tied with 4% of the vote, Jane received 8%, Lauri received 15%, and Nia received 69% of the vote. Nice. Meaning that Nia and Lauri take the final 2 spots in the semifinals. Now, with the competition heating up, let's move on to the semifinals. In the first one, we saw Kate, Claudette, Michaela, and Quentin go head to head. Now, just a reminder that only one survivor from each of these semifinals will be going through to the final. It is the one with the most amount of votes. With over 10,000 votes in this first one, we saw Kate receive 8%, Quentin receive 15%, Michaela received 19%, and Claudette sweeping the majority with 58%, meaning she takes the first place in the semifinal. The second semifinal saw Nancy, Detective Tapp, Ace, and David King go head-to-head with just under 11,000 votes between them. Detective Tapp received 4%, David King received 15%, Ace received 33%, and Nancy received 48% of the vote, a lot closer than the previous one we just saw. Interestingly, worth noting that this is actually where my personal most hated survivor goes out of the competition, in Ace Visconti. Yeah, I said it, Ace mains. What are we going to do? The third semi-final saw Feng Min, Yunjin, Jonah, and Dwight go head-to-head with just over 12,500 votes. Yunjin received 12%, kind of surprisingly, to be honest. Yunjin, I've always seen as a very selfish survivor as well. Maybe I'm just not in touch with the community, apparently. Jonah received 13%, which was interesting because somebody had told me that in a previous voting thing that somebody else had done, Jonah had actually come out on top out of everyone, whereas he didn't even make it to the final in mine. Worth noting. Dwight received 22%, and Feng received 53% of the vote, meaning she takes the third spot in the final. And in the final semi-final, which is a horrible thing to say, we have Meg, Steve, Nia, and Lauri. Probably one of the most interesting head-to-heads we had, and over 13,000 people decided the fate of this one. Lauri received 8%, Steve received 11%, surprisingly, Meg received 34%, and Nia received 47% of the vote, which means that the final spot in the final is taken by Meg. Editor here. You may have noticed a discrepancy in what I've just said, but please just bear with me. I will address it. But yeah, it turns out I'm not too smart. Anyway, let's get back into it. So, on to the final, the moment you've all been waiting for, and 12,000 votes were cast in this final, which saw Claudette, Nancy, Feng, and Meg going head-to-head to be crowned the most hated survivor. In fourth place, we have Nancy with 12% of the vote. In third place, we have Meg with 24% of the vote, which means that it's between Claudette and Feng, the most hated. I can reveal that in first place is... What do you mean? What do you mean I made a mistake? I counted all the votes fairly. There was no mistake. Meg shouldn't be in the final? But Meg won her semi-final fair and square. Nia received... Oh, shit. Alright, so I'm just gonna level with you guys. I screwed up. I misread the fact that Nia should have gone through into the final, and for some reason put Meg, and then cast the whole final with you guys voting on who you wanted to be the most hated. And it wasn't until I actually sat down to record this video that I realized my mistake and had to revote everything. Yeah. Anyway, let's go on to what the actual final was. Let's redo the take. So here we are on to the final of the most hated survivor competition, the moment you've been waiting for, finding out who will be crowned the champion. And over 13,300 people decided the fate of this round. The final round saw Claudette, Nancy, Feng, and Nia, going head to head for the crown. And I can reveal that in fourth place, with 10% of the vote, is Nancy Wheeler. In third place, with 21% of the vote, is Claudette, which means that it is between Feng, once again, and Nia on who will be crowned the most hated. Second place received 22% of the vote, and first place received 47% of the vote. So it wasn't a stomping majority, but it is definitely a considerable margin between first and second place. I can confirm that in first place, and the most hated survivor in Dead by Daylight is Nia Carlson. Ben Min took second place, and Nia took the crown. Congratulations, Nia. Congratulations to you. Should we be clapping this? This feels like an insult. All the Nia mains out there, congratulations. And I'm sorry at the same time. Take whichever one you want. And hey, Nia's the entity apparently. Maybe you guys would like being the most hated. Who knows? For those of you who want to know, by the way, the fake final, the incorrect final, Claudette actually came in second place with 25% of the vote, and Feng actually took the most hated with 39% of the vote. It was considerably closer in that fake group than it was in the final group. But yeah, the final vote was taken by Nia. So there you have it. In 2022, the most hated survivor, interestingly, is Nia. I know a lot of people make jokes about Nia being an entity, but I was actually kind of surprised. I expected somebody like Feng or Steve or Jonah or anyone like that to take the title. It wasn't. Nia was kind of like a dark horse for me, kind of like a back burner. I didn't really expect to see her go past the semifinals, to be honest. So what can we draw from this? What can we draw from these votes, this finale, this outcome? Well, to be honest, nothing. The 146,000 people who voted on this do not represent the entire Dead by Daylight community, of course. And when you break it down to between 10 and 13,000 per round, definitely doesn't represent everybody, but it was a really fun thing to do. It's just meant for a little bit of entertainment. And if you guys enjoyed it, please do let me know. And I'm more than happy to run this kind of competition for others. Maybe we can find out who the most hated killer is, or even the most loved survivor. Maybe we can go down the positive route. Oh, love. Let me know in the comments what you think of the outcome, and if you want to see more of this type of video, I'd love to make more. But for now, guys, I want to thank every single person who voted and made this video happen, and to everyone currently watching this, that includes you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And remember, if you haven't already, please do leave a like on the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. But for now, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here as usual and supporting the channel. Go out there and be the best damn Kronks that you can be. Go have a fantastic day with whatever you're doing. Spread some positivity. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.
So let me break it all down for you. I ain't never giving up, I ain't never giving up. I'm taking that crown from you.